it going. Okay. Let me see. Carl, are you almost ready, sir?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Yep.
All right. There's a couple other things I wanted to mention, but we can always get to that. I think they're very minor things. All right, Carl. So if you don't mind, can you take it away, and I will just go ahead and watch.
Yes. Let me see if I can. Am I able to share my screen? Yep.
Yep, I'm able to see it.
All right. I just wanted to make sure because I'm on a new computer. All right. So I guess before we pick up from where we left off, there's something Gary wanted me to show, but just wanted to update people on a few things. So these are going to be on the website. They're actually already are up there, but on the new updated website. But I don't know if you guys saw there was a post that Chris posted on Facebook about a time axis. I think that was the name of the post of 40 years that starts from the birth of Abraham and it goes all the way to 2033.
Hmm.
And there's actually 105 40s. You can see that on the let me see the timeline page. Go there real fast. So you see if you get to Abraham.
Hey, how'd you scroll that fast?
Oh, I'm using the trackpad. If you
On your
use
on your laptop?
yeah, I also have like a larger one. Yeah,
That's
or
cool.
yeah, if you have a trackpad, you can use I think two fingers. If you swipe left or right, up or down, you can
That's
just kind
yep.
of
Because I
grab it.
pressed that arrow button, I'm like, it's like I'm on an escalator.
Yeah, yeah, these arrows, you can use the arrows. This is more or do it on an iPad. It works really well. I'll try to adjust this so they
You
scroll
can
quicker.
give me a fast forward button too.
Yeah, actually I could probably do
I
something
don't
like
even
that
need
as
a
well.
fast rewind. I just need a fast forward if you can.
Okay, I'll work on that. All right, yeah, so we saw a while ago we had looked at Abraham's time path. If anyone watched like the timeline series and we saw his lifespan
Hmm.
of 175 will take you to 2033. But also Chris has talked about this exactly 4,200 years, which is the same time path. It's just this is just another way of breaking the 4,200 years down. But you'll notice what's interesting is it's also a series of 40 years.
Right.
So you start from Abraham when he's just born, 40 years later, he's 40 years old. That would be the first set. And you keep doing that. And this what he was calling a time axis runs all the way to 2033. But there's 105 40s if you count them.
Mhm.
But out of the 105, there are I think about 20 to 22 important dates that land on these 40-year periods. So this is what this little carousel is, right? Let me just minimize that. So if we start, for example, over here, it says Abraham's born. Let's see. Use this little arrow thing. So you
Would
can
that
see,
be would that be
would that be what?
4 times 25 times what? Is 5 times 26 is 105?
I think 105 is a prime number. I don't think you can break it down.
Well, 25 times 5 is 125, right? Oh,
Yeah,
prime.
105 is a prime number. I'm pretty certain.
So 5 times
Yeah,
20 is 100. 5 times 21 is 105. Okay.
5 times 21.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I guess it isn't prime. For some reason, I was thinking it was. 105 is also found on the timeline over here. This is how old Seth was when he begat Enos. And what's
Mhm.
interesting is also another time path. If you take these 105s and you go exactly 123 years, or 123 times, so that's 105 times 123, you get 12,915 years. That takes you to 2033 as well. See that?
I
All these.
I wonder what is the spiritual principle of multiplying a certain number to get you to. Is there a Bible verse that we
No,
can,
yeah, they have spiritual meanings. Like for example, if you look at Abraham, okay, why did God give us his age of 75? Just think about that number for a moment.
Mhm.
He was 75 years old, the Bible says, when he left Ur of the Chaldees, which is another name for Babylon. So he left Babylon at 75,
Mhm.
and he headed to Canaan, which is the promised land. So just think about that. He's coming out of Babylon, he's going into Canaan, right? Think about what we're doing.
What would that be spiritually, from the world to the church, or the church
No,
to the world?
from the world to heaven,
Okay, thank you.
right? Remember the Bible says, "Come out of her, my people," talking
Yeah.
about Babylon,
Yes.
and we're heading to the promised land, right?
I see.
Remember that the Israelites were walking on the Red Sea. Where
Mhm.
were they heading? To the promised land.
Right.
So at 75, God says that happens. Well, look what happens when you take his 75 years and you keep going. Eventually, you also get to 2033. So 4,200 is a factor of 75. You have 75 times 56. So
Wow.
56 periods of that. And if you divide 56, I think yeah, it's 14 times 4. And that would also be a factor of 7, I think. Yeah, 7 times 8. So there's definitely spiritual meaning. 100. Isaac was born to Abraham at 100. Well, there's exactly 42 periods of 100 years. And that's the 4,200 years
You know, it's
that.
interesting when Jesus said, "When you shall see the prophets Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and ye yourselves thrust out."
Mhm.
I wonder if that's some kind of clue that these patriarchs have key time paths to 2033.
It could. Yeah, Abraham's definitely one of them. Noah, I found, typically takes you to 2011, like all three of his time paths. Like if you take his 950
Mhm.
and you replicate that 8 times, you get to 2011.
That's this is amazing because there
Yeah.
are 8 souls saved in the ark.
Yeah. And now if you start from his death, it's 7 times. So
Okay.
that also, and then what's interesting is the Bible lets us know that after the flood, he lived 350 years.
Mhm.
So this, I gotta correct this because this is here we go. I think, yeah, this is better. It should be like on that break point. It wasn't correct, but right here, right after the flood, right? Shem, he was 100 years old 2 years after the flood. So he's 98 at the flood. Noah lives another 350 years after the flood, right? Well, 7,000 is a factor of 350. So this is another time path further supporting this 7,000 year time path. You remember one day is 1,000 years?
Mhm.
Because, so in other words, if you start from after the flood, the Bible says Noah lived an additional 350 years after the flood.
Mhm.
And you keep going, okay, let's do another 350, another 350. Finally, you also get to 2011 because 350
11 or
times
2033.
2011.
Okay.
Yeah, 350 times 20 is 7,000. So in other words, you can break up 7,000 years into a factor of into 350 times 20. So in other words, God, I think, is letting us know, do that with Abraham. He's given us this number, 350. See where that leads, Keep going at the 350, see where you lead, and we get to 2011. So we have that leads to 2011. We have Noah's lifespan that leads to 2011, and then we have the 7,000 years that leads to 2011. So we have three examples, three time paths that take you to 2011. That's just without going through the timeline and also arriving at the year 2011.
I can see the churches saying, "Oh yeah, well you said May 21 was Judgment Day and nothing happened." They have all these proofs here, and the word of God in these multiples doesn't compare to what they see with their physical eyes.
Well, this is why it's important that we now focus on Abraham because Abraham, his time paths, all of them, 175, 75, 100, they all lead to 2033. And it's all based off that 4,200 years. Now, the Bible doesn't, it gives us the number 75, it gives us 100, and it also gives us his lifespan of 175. Those are all three different ways to get to 2033.
Mhm.
But it doesn't tell us anything happened when he was 40 years old. However, God doesn't always give you the answers. It's just like you're doing a piece of, like if you're doing some homework, right?
That's
You
right.
have to, he'll give you a few examples, but then he can't give you all the answers, right? You have to do some studying and see what works. And it just so happens that the same stream of 40 years is the same exact set of 40s that run through Moses, right? Like the first 40 years of Moses's life.
Hmm.
The three sets of 40 years that make up Moses's life of 120. This series of 40s, it's the same exact 40 years that you would land on right here. So in other words,
Oh,
Abraham's here, and then you go, how many 40s is that? Let's count that. Let's go up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Did I do that right?
yeah, it was kind of like in the middle.
No, 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 it isn't. No, it's if I
Oh, okay, it's a straight
place
out.
it,
Okay.
it's exactly there. You can do the math too. So see that line right there? It would start there. So you actually
Yeah, I
start
was jumping between the two. That's what I was saying.
4, 5, 6, 7,
Which
8,
one is that?
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's 16. So just if you want to do quick math, 2167 plus 40 years times 16 gets you to 1527. That's when Moses was born. See, you'll see 1527 right
Ah,
here.
I see.
The arrow points there. So it's exact. So in other words, from Abraham's birth, exactly 40 years later, you go 16 times and you'll
Mm.
get to Moses's birth, right? And then you can keep doing that. Like it also lines up with the judges period. Remember, 40 years, the land had rest. 80 years, the land had rest. 40 years, the land had rest, right? Same set of
Double
40s.
synchronization because
Yeah,
Moses
it
is
all syncs up.
technically the first judge, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's the first judge. And it also runs through with Jacob. I think, where's Jacob at right here? You can do the same thing with his life. He was born in 2007. It's the same set of 40s. So in other words, God started with Abraham, had 105 40s run from Abraham's birth to 2033, and then purposely allowed certain patriarchs and major events to occur at the beginning of these 40-year periods.
Hmm.
So as soon as you get to the 16th 40, Moses is born, and his lifespan runs 40 years. Then God subdivides it up to another. So he's first in Egypt, then he's in the wilderness in Midian for 40 years, and then he's in the 40-year wilderness sojourn. So that makes up these 340s make up his whole lifespan. And if
And
you,
so the God is establishing that we can break down into multiples.
exactly, he's actually letting us know, hey, he did this for us. Continue, see where that leads. Keep going. And when you do that, guess what happens? When you get to the 39th 40, that's when Christ died on the cross. Just
Hmm.
think about that. It's 40 times 39 or 39 times 40 years from Moses' birth to the cross. So what do you think God's teaching there? The 39 stripes, right? Say
Wow.
40. So he set that up. And what was happening on the cross?
Yeah.
Christ was
To mention the 3940 from 1994 to 2033, right?
well, from 1994 to 2033, this is one of the proofs. This is another proof for that 40-year period, is that's the last 40 right here. That's the 105th 40 from Abraham's birth.
Hmm.
So this is another proof that we're on the right track. We're living in this final 40 ever since 1994 to 2033. So this is just more evidence that we're on the right track with that 1994 to 2033 period, right?
Gotcha.
And I think it's the same set of 40s that would run through the Exodus, right? Remember that was from the Exodus to the Promised Land. That was this third 40. So just think about that right here from the Exodus, the Promised Land, and then you have this last 40 from 1994 to 2033. So anyways, this is why I wanted to show this is because you can see there's a lot of 40s. It's 105, but there's about 22 events that happens on that 40-year time axis. So let me just click this one and see. So
I
we
like how it
see,
flips over like a board game. That's nice.
yeah, just okay, Abraham's born. That would be the first one, right? So that's 2167. And then let me just use these arrows to work on. So this would be the fourth set of 40s. Jacob is born. We go to the next one. Jacob and Esau turned 40. That would be the fifth 40.
And when they both turned 40, was that when they were both severely tested with getting the birthright?
No, that was when they were we don't really know how old they were then, but the
Okay.
Bible says that Esau married strange wives at age 40. It doesn't mention Jacob, but we know because they're twins, Jacob had to be 40 as well.
Hmm.
And it just so happens in that year, that was the year 1967. Well, exactly 4,000 years later is 2033. So they're at the 4,000. So when we hit 2033, it will be exactly 4,000 years since that event where Esau married strange wives and Jacob, I guess you could say, passed the test
Hmm.
because he didn't.
Or the complete
So,
separation. Yeah.
and notice how God's using these whole numbers, 4,000, 4,200 from Abraham's birth. So he's these aren't just like it's not like 4,001 or something that's not. So then the seventh one is when Isaac dies. So this is God's very precise with time. So he made it so in 1887 BC on one of those 40s, Isaac dies.
Wow. Talk
Okay,
about.
the next.
So, Sir Carl, I don't
Mhm.
know if our audience. Please give me a thumbs up if you can digest a little bit more because we wanted to talk about the celestial clock
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, we can
we don't
go
want
we
to
can go to
fry
that.
we don't want to fry your neuron your nerves because we really want to remember how we were talking about the offset when we compare the solar calendar and the lunar calendar.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, we
Carl
can get
was
into
able
that.
to determine, and we talked about this. Why is it that sometimes it's off 13 days or 22 days? And when Carl would say, "Well, which way do we go? Do we go forwards or backwards?" It would just blow my mind. So we have some images for you, which is going to really help you understand, me understand, why is there this fluctuation when we compare the solar calendar and the lunar calendar, and we get different dates every time we plug in when we're looking with the celestial clock.
So what he's talking about is there's this shift that we make to line up the solar with the lunar because the moon phases they fall behind the solar.
That's right. And the reason why it falls behind is that the lunar calendar is what, 29 point what days a month?
Yeah, the average lunar month is 29.530588.
All right. So the month is behind the solar calendar month. How much is a solar calendar month for 30 days?
Well, ours,
We can figure that out.
yeah, well, maybe a better way to look at it is in years. So our
Yeah,
year, our solar year is 365.2422. A lunar year is like 352.
that's right.
So it eventually it comes out, it has to catch up. So it's
The
syncing.
moon, the moon phase doesn't line up in terms of keeping pace with the robustness of the sun, right? It's off a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because it's yeah, exactly. So what we did here is, well, this is like an analyzer, just some interesting information. So there's a certain date range that Passover can occur on. So it can't fall before March 21st because that date is the spring equinox and Passover is tied to the spring equinox. So that the spring equinox always occurs at an exact time of the year on March 21st.
So
And
what
they
you're
say,
saying is, in order for these things to take place, the season itself must come forth.
right. So Nisan 14 was always observed based off the beginning of spring season. I mean, sorry, the Passover. Passover was observed when there is, it's tethered to the spring equinox.
Gotcha.
March
What does
21st.
equinox mean? That's a big
That
word.
that means that every year from March, starting from March 21st,
Hmm.
they say March 20th to March 21st is when the spring occurs, right?
Okay.
Every year. So I mean, we're coming up to that in what 21 days, right?
Boy, we sure look forward to that, don't we all?
Right.
Woo.
Yeah. So in about 3 weeks, we're gonna hit that spring equinox, and what happens is the day is almost equal in length to the night. I think almost
Oh,
perfectly.
is that why the word equi is in there?
Yeah, it's probably where that comes from. Yep.
That means lightness and darkness sometimes have like some kind of equilibrium, like or
Yeah.
balance.
Right. So the Bible indicates that God is tying Passover with that way they can always keep track of Passover because it's tied to the springtime. Like when
Isn't that
Jesus,
interesting how God divided the darkness from the light and that through the atonement? I wonder if
yeah,
there's a spiritual inference with the Passover and Christ, the sacrificial lamb, bringing balance between light and darkness.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
yeah. So Mr. Camping, that's what he talked about in his book. How he thought it was interesting that the first Passover was March 21st.
Aha.
That's basically a defining a rule that Passover can't be celebrated before March 21st because then it's not in the spring season.
And there's no balance between the sun and the moon.
Right. Which is why in some cases we can't go backwards. Remember how I said you go forward or backwards? So for example, in the case of like 2011, there's a 17.
Finally, Carl, I get it.
Okay.
I can't. You can't go backwards because it's not spring yet, right?
Yeah, so if you go backwards 17 days from March 31st, uh you're gonna get March 14th. We haven't hit the spring equinox yet. So it has to be Passover has to be if you're looking into the issue. So in this case, it has to go forward 17 days. Okay. So this is why me and Gary were talking about this, but we noticed there's no Passovers that fall on any of these dates. April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. And the reason why I figured this out, Gary, is that's because of that rule, how we can't go back, um, by 10. I mean, we can't go before March 21st.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't allow Passover to fall on any of these days.
Oh, so you're saying there won't be balance between the sun and the moon in terms of the day and the season, which would disqualify April 1 and April 10 because it doesn't have the solar balance to
Yeah,
be
just
qualified for
yeah.
that?
So there's no yeah. So if you go through uh, this it never falls. You'll never see it fall on April
It's
1st.
impossible for it to happen, is what you're saying, because
Right,
the
because I figured out why. For example, if I hit like okay, here's 7, right? Well, it's just based off the math. So because there's a 7-day shift, we can go backwards.
Mhm.
So if it's March 31st, we go back by 7 days, and we get March 24th. That allows us occurs after the spring equinox.
That's right.
So it's going to automatically shift backwards because it falls within the spring equinox. So the problem is if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, it's always going to shift backwards. That's why, up until 9 day, if you see a 9, right,
Hmm.
or an 8 or 7, it's always going to shift backwards. It's not going to shift forward because it falls within that
The
10-day window.
balance, the sun moon balance time.
Right. So in other words, March 31st to March 21st is 10 days, right? So if it ever detects that it can, oops, sorry, March 21st. If it ever detects that it can go backwards without falling before the spring equinox, it's going to go backwards. So that's why you never have April 1 through 10. There's a
So
10
this
day
is
difference.
wonderful because before it was more, well, maybe we can go forward, maybe we can go back. Now towards, okay, in order for you to meet criteria, we have to look at the sun moon balance. Now it's no longer maybe we can try both and see what happens. We should know. We now know why.
Well, yeah, but there are some cases where uh, it works to go forward or backwards,
Okay.
I think. Oh, I'm not sure. I would have, yeah,
Because
but
I understand what you're saying. Maybe there's a range where it could go either way based on the balance of the sun and the moon and the season, right?
right.
And where the phases are.
Yeah, and basically I counted these. It can, here's the range. So April 30th is the farthest it can fall, and
Now,
the earliest.
for folks who are not grabbing this, Carl, can you show them that image that you made that looks like a heartbeat to
Oh
help
yeah,
them
let's
understand,
see. Um,
including
yeah,
myself?
that's gonna scroll down here. So this is just a chart that shows um, an oscillating chart that shows how much of a shift that takes place.
Do you see how
And
fixed that range is? It never goes beyond a certain range. You see that?
yeah,
It's
you'll see the highest points are like here, here, and here.
and do you notice it has a rhythmic pattern, almost like a heartbeat?
Hmm. Yeah, and this is all throughout history. Every single shift that takes place from 11,013 to 2033 AD. This is just letting us know there's a very real pattern of it's not random, those shifts. It's
It's
limited to
cyclical. It's cyclical, right?
yeah.
Now, when you say it's cyclical, if depending on what time of year it is, you're going to get that vibration, right? You're going to get that up, down,
Yeah, like right here is a 29-day shift. Right here
and
is a 29-day shift.
right,
Right here is a 29-day shift.
and that's because the Earth is revolving around the sun, and the moon is fixed in a circular pattern, so it's predictable.
Yeah, it's very predictable. So the shifts aren't necessarily random. They're just based
So
on
when
how
you
the
say we need to think if it's going to go forward 10 days or back 10 days, if we make a wrong decision, we do have something to work from to help us know that if you
well,
go.
you just there was you see what where God has in like Mr. Camping saw that with March 21st in 1447 BC,
Mhm.
that if you in this case is 10 days, right? So you could go backwards 10 days and land on March 21st, but it also you could also go 10 days forward to April 10th. But when you do April 10th, it doesn't fit with the Bible. I've tested it. Because if you do April 10th, that throws off the sequence of when Joshua was at the River Jordan lodging there. And
And I
he's
could be
there.
wrong. I thought you can't have Passover from 1 to 10 anyways. Or am I wrong?
No, I think it's well, 10 days would be April 10th. It's just the program is deciding to go
Okay,
back if it can fall in that window.
I see.
So and interestingly enough, if you did go 10 days forward in this case, it doesn't match with the Bible. It won't work.
Right.
So
So
it seems to be on the right track. If you were to go 10 days backwards from March 31st, you get March 21st, and then that matches with the Bible. Because we've gone over that in previous episodes in using this calendar. We went over it. So anyways, there's that oscillation. And then over here is kind of just like a basic animation showing how
can
much
you
it
zoom in a little
differs.
bit more if you can, sir?
Yeah, I can try. So here is March 31st, and every year this is how much it drifts away.
Okay, what are we looking at here? Is this the moon circling or is that the earth circling the sun?
This is the phases of the moon
Okay.
compared to the sun.
So this is the
So,
moon's position based on the sun's brightness, and behind the moon would be the earth, right?
right.
Got
So
it.
here it gives you the year 14 AD. So if you just keep going 15 AD, there is a 10.96 days to the next moon, right? This one you have 21.84 days to the next moon.
Now, what
Uh,
do you mean by the next moon? Like the new moon of every month?
yeah,
Okay.
the next new moon. So I guess this is how it calculated it. So basically this just shows you. So in this case, in 18 AD, April 14th was the date for Passover. And then you just keep going, and then it changes to April 25th. So every day there's a shift, and this allows the sun to keep up with the phases of the moon. The Earth going around the sun, the solar calendar, keeping up with the phases of the moon.
So we could really put together a really nice YouTube video that kind of shows this information and summarizes how we get
Yeah,
to this pattern, right?
yeah. And this just kind of gives a visual. It's not. This is kind of getting into more scientific stuff, but it's just if somebody wanted to see visually what we mean by those offsets, it just has to do with the sun and the
And
moon.
I'm really
Oh,
thankful that we're able to do this because there's a lot of people who say, that Harold Camping, he was wrong and all his work, didn't come to fruition. And all these years later, the same formula and premise is holding up. The Bible is holding it up, and also it's being verified and checked, and that's a
yeah, it's
very
matching with
comforting.
the Bible. Yeah, that's the key is like the Passover, the math for the CCC tool aligns with the Bible. And and also I just wanted to show how many occurrences people can check this out if they want, but this tells you how many times Passover will occur. So there's 14 times in history it occurred on April 30th, and then it just shows you all the different dates.
Oh, nice.
But there,
What was the,
this is
what was the most? What was the most? What was the highest?
the highest was I think April, let's see,
April
446. So
27th.
April 27th is the most common date for Passover all throughout history. So if you click that, you'll just see all the BC dates that it occurs on. This only ranges from 11,013 to 2033. So the last time that happened, 1972. So March 31st, that's the date of the spring equinox, right?
That's
That occurs
21st, March 21st, right there.
March 21st, I'm sorry. That occurs 444 times. It definitely seems to be a pattern because look, 441, 441, 442, 442. Some of them are 444. So actually most of these are. But yeah, I just wanted to see what I don't know how much spiritual understanding we can get from any of this, but they're just stats, that's all they are.
Well, if anyone from the audience feels could be so kind to give a thumbs up,
But
that's helped somewhat clear up.
the reason why I did this is because I wanted to see something. For example, I thought this was interesting. Um, the day that Christ hung was in the Garden of Gethsemane. That was March 31st. That was the beginning of Passover for 33 AD. Well, what I thought was interesting was, and we'll see that here. So Passover occurred in the year 33 AD on March 31st. That's when it began. But also, I noticed in the year that Isaac was born, that's 2067 BC,
Hmm.
Passover also occurred on March 31st. And I just thought that was kind of interesting because Isaac is a picture of Christ. Remember,
See,
Abraham went to go
right.
sacrifice him on Mount Moriah. And
That's
then
right.
he said, God will provide himself a sacrifice. So in that year that Isaac was born, Passover occurred on March 31st, when the same year that Christ went to the cross. Passover also occurred March 31st slash April 1st. So
That's
I just wanted to see if there's anything significant when just looking at that. And there's also like um, you can see when like March 21st, when the Exodus Passover happened. You can see every year that took place. March 21st. So yeah, anyways,
This
we'll
is
make
very
make
this is very helpful. I really liked looking at that oscillating tool that looked like a pattern rhythm of a heartbeat, and that gives you an idea that this range is not only cyclical, but it's predictable. And
Yeah, I
it,
mean, already this is letting us know that this keeps us within the spring window from from when Passover can occur. I mean, we only have a certain amount of Gregorian dates. It's a very small window. I think I counted it from here to downwards. It's 31 days are Gregorian days that Passover can land on. So yeah, so we got that. Nothing new here. This is just the same tool if you want to ever do the math to
one,
calculate Passover in any year.
yeah,
I did.
one thing very quickly I really liked is that it just so happens the balance between day and night is right around Passover when Christ was. Now I could be wrong, but there might be some uh, questions about when Passover officially was. Would anything about the balance between the day and the night be any kind of assist in terms of that, or no? That really doesn't help when in terms of the preparation of the Passover and the actual Passover.
Yeah, I think the March 21st one was just letting us know, helping to let us know that Passover doesn't fall before the spring
Gotcha.
season.
Gotcha.
So,
We do
but
have a hand raised. We do have a hand raised, and please forgive me if I didn't notice that. Miss Miriam, please, Mrs. Miriam, please go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thank you again for this program. So, my question is, Carl, have you looked at all Josiah's Passover and if it lands on a 40 or anything, significant about that? Thank you.
yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that. Were you the caller who had asked about Hezekiah's Passover, or was it Josiah's Passover?
Um,
Because I know somebody asked that a while ago.
yeah, I did, but in relationship to, I think, in Ezekiel's, like, how Ezekiel starts out with that and pretty much, the beginning of Ezekiel.
Hmm.
It harkens back to that date from that time to Josiah's Passover, but I don't know what other question you're asking. I mean, that's the
Oh,
only
okay.
time I think it's, why it's so prominently. I just think it's a prominent date, and I want to know if there's any kind of relationship with that, with any of the stuff that you're doing right
That's
now.
interesting.
It,
That's
it,
interesting. Because
yeah, there could be. Yep, I got to
isn't
see.
isn't Josiah? Didn't he die in Megiddo?
Yes.
The valley. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah, we'd
that's
have to see what year. I think we
Megiddo.
should. I think what we'd have to do is try to calculate, figure out what year that he celebrated Passover, and then see what the date is, because it might be significant.
Okay, yeah, I had written that somewhere down. So then I could just go to your calendar.
Mhm.
And
Do
how
you,
would I
do you
do it?
have the date?
Let's just say I have a date, and how would I do it?
Okay, so you can go to ebiblefellowship.org/CCC.
Okay.
And if you have the date on hand, I can do it right now. If you can remember it, what BC date that might have been.
It was like 6,890. I have to look at my notes. Sorry, 698, 689, something like that. Oh, I don't even know where that book
And how
is.
did you calculate? Let me see.
Even
What would-
Chris, well, you know what? Well, no, I still have to, that would
We're
still
throwing
take me
you
back.
under the bus, Chris.
Oh, I see. Well, it does
I
say in
know
his
Chris would
18th
know
year.
it because I think he answered it because it was either, it was 689. Let's just pretend it was 689 or 680 or 698, something like that. It was given a double.
Oh, it might
You
have been
can
that
count
because
it
that was
back.
in,
Yeah, it's definitely countable. I remember that.
let's see. Josiah, it says right here that it was in his 18th year of his reign that
Yeah,
he had purged the land. And I think Passover would fall. Let me see. And I don't know if this he found the book of the law in his 18th year,
I think it was that same year.
the same year. Okay, yeah, because then if you go to the next chapter, I believe it talks about the Passover. So let's go. Let's go to the next year. Yep,
Maybe
and
because
moreover, Joshua kept the Passover unto Jehovah in Jerusalem, and they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. Yeah, so we
Ooh,
can, if that's
I
the right,
like that. It actually gives you the 14th day of the first month, which is a good time reference for us to compare, right?
well, it always occurs, Passover always occurs
on the
on the
14th of the
14th of the
first.
first month.
Between the evenings, right? So it's always the 14th, right?
Yeah, always the 14th.
Okay.
So what we can do is we can type in that year. So that was 622 because it's either his 18th non-accession year or his 18th accession year.
Yeah, okay.
I
Let's plug
believe
it.
it's his 18th accession. So we'll try 622.
Okay.
So if we type in 622, that would give us the date of March 26th for Passover / March 27th. If it was 23, it would be April 23rd, 24th.
Okay.
So March 26th, March 27th. Um,
And then how would I
would be
relate that back to your 4040s, that other calendar?
okay. So this is just looking at days.
Okay.
So
Right.
the reason why Mr. Camping used this is because, for example, if you type in 2011, this calculated exactly how many days from March 31st when Christ was in the garden. That was Passover, the night of Passover, and in all the way to 2011, and that gave him this number right here, this 746189. Oh no, I'm on BC. Something seemed off about that.
I was like, wait a minute.
Well, it's not quite. So it's 722449. That
Right.
gets you to date from March 31st, the cross, all the way to April 17th of Passover in 2011. But that doesn't get you to May 21 yet. So if you look here, April 17th would be the 722449, 722,449 days. But that's short, I think 51 days. 722 minus,
That's right.
yeah, 51 days. So those 51 days, if you start with April 17th, that would be the 722,449. This would be 450, 451, all the way until 2011. You'll get to 722,500. That's how he did that calculation.
Okay.
So that, I mean, another way to look at it is this way. This one's a little better. You go to 2011. If April 17th is, so we have to see if 51 days later we land on May 21. So this would be the 722,449th day. This would be so we have to see if there's 51 days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Now let me see if I did that right. No, I'm sorry. I already that's March 31st. So I know what I did wrong.
We're running out of days. I was thinking.
No, yeah, it's because this is how many days from March 31st. I
That's right.
forgot we went forward 17 days. That's important. So we should start with March 31st and then do the 51 days. So
And
March
why are we
31st,
starting with March 31st just for the audience so they don't feel left out?
because Christ was in the garden in 33 AD. So if you go exactly, the 1,978 years, that's 722,449 days.
God.
So our goal is to see where we reach 722,500. So we need to see if from 51 days from this date will get us to May 21st. So starting from here, we can automatically count up 30 for the whole month here. So that's easy. 30, this would be 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Oops. Let me do that again. 30, 37, right? 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. It's 51 days. I
Got it.
was thinking 50. I was thinking of the Pentecost.
I was thinking Pentecost too. Gary has
Yeah.
raised his hand.
Yeah, so this is the 51st day, which would be exactly 722,500 from the cross. Yeah.
So, Miriam, I hope that helped. We may have to do some more research. I don't know. Does that help? Got a thumbs up. Perfect.
Yeah, I think she would have to see if Josiah celebrated Passover in 622 622 BC. Well, there's nothing you can really do with this date except for see if maybe you can count how many days from March 26th all the way to that feast, I mean that other Passover, and see if that number is significant. That's
Right.
just a thought. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. I think Gary.
Yep. Gary, please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Loud and clear, sir.
Great. Thanks. Thank you
Actually,
so
you're a
much.
little bit low. You're a little bit low.
Let me see.
It,
Any
are
better?
you on your you're talking on speaker, or do you have it?
Um, it's on my MacBook.
Oh, okay. If maybe you just go a little bit closer to the computer,
Yeah.
it should be
So,
better.
two questions, please. First one, where do we read specifically about Passover not being able to be before March 21st? Is that a function of the fact that it has to be in the month Abib, which means spring? Where do we see that specifically?
Yeah, from everything I read and researched, also just reading Mr. Camping's books, it seems to be the case where they came out in the month of Bib, which
Right.
has to do with, the corn, and it's only that only grows, I guess. The barley only starts to grow in the springtime. So I think it's an indicator for them of the season. And so it just kind of becomes a mathematical if they always wait for the spring to arrive to celebrate Passover, then you would never celebrate Passover before the spring, right? Because it would still be wintertime. So I think the spring season signaled when Passover was celebrated, and then also Nisan 14 would be the day and the month that they celebrated it.
And do you know which of Mr. Camping's books that was?
Yes, I think that was. Let me see. Let me see here. Because he mentions March in one of his timeline studies, he mentions March 21st. So this is what he put. Scroll down. So, and incidentally, around the first month of the Jewish calendar, of the first day of the first month, I think he meant to say, yeah, no, the first day of the first month. That was very close to the vernal equinox, the spring equinox. And what happens all over the world at the spring equinox? Something very curious here. Um, it doesn't enter in, I don't think biblically particularly, but it's very interesting aside. What is the character of the length of days and the nights when we come to the vernal equinox? Normally it's March 21st or 22nd, and on that day, everywhere in the world, the day and the night are equal length. They're exactly 12 hours long. If you're at the equator all through the year, every day and night is exactly 12 hours. If you're at the North Pole, there are months when the days may only be an hour or two or less in length, and the night is 23 or almost 24 hours. And on the other hand, there will be times when the sun never goes down. You have daytime for 23 or 24 hours and no night because you're way at the North Pole. But on March 21st or March 22nd, there's the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, when all over the world, the day and the night are absolutely equal. And this is just about the time that Jesus was crucified. He was crucified on March 31st and was on the day, and that was the day, the 14th day. Here it says in verse 6, and on the 14th day of the same month. On that day, the day and the night were very close to being exactly equal in length. I don't know whether that's important in itself, but it's just a curious fact that that's the case. So now sundown would have been about 6 o'clock. You see on March 21st and March 22nd, if you look at the weather report, you will find your moon phases and so on. You'll also find that they will say the sun will set at 6 o'clock tonight, unless we're on daylight savings. Let's see. So that's one mention of it. Let me see if there was another one. Looks like there was another one. There he's getting into the 29.5305 days. And okay, maybe I'll read a little bit of this.
Yeah, that looks to be a discussion on that because I see
Yeah.
it's got highlighted vernal equinox and
Mhm.
such.
Yep. So the Bible says that Passover was to be on the 14th day of the first month. The 14th day of the first month and the Passover day has to be somewhere very close to the vernal equinox that we have in the spring. And March 21st fits right perfectly there. March 21st, it fits all the biblical nuances and it fits exactly into the astronomical data. So we know it was March 21st. We know they went out on March 22nd. Now, when we calculate 40 years later, that's when they arrived in the land of Canaan. That was in the year 1407 BC. Well, again, by the same kind of calculations, when we look at 1407, we find that the Passover, the 14th day of the first month of the early biblical calendar, was March 29th. It was 8 days later than it was when they first celebrated it, when they left Egypt. But we also know if we go to Joshua chapter 4 again, God gives us timelines. We read in verse 19 of Joshua 4, and the people came out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month. Well, now with the 14th day of the biblical calendar, and that year was the 29th of March, that was the 25th of March, and the 25th of March, and we know that's right on. So we went through this before on previous episodes. We
Sir
showed
Carl,
why March 21st.
we're running out of time, and please forgive me. I just Googled when is the vernal equinox in 2033, and I got an interesting answer. Could you just quickly just type that in, and then
2033. Yeah, so it would fall in the spring season.
I
They
thought we
say
couldn't. I thought we couldn't go before the 21st, though.
they say March 20th to March 21st.
Oh, it says 12:22 a.m. So what does that mean? Is that inclusive or what?
No, when you look up when the spring equinox is, so when this is what scientists put it at, the spring equinox, it gives two date ranges basically.
Okay.
Like I looked it up on, let me see, where was that? In some case, let me see, March 20 or 21st. But it's first around March 20th, and then again, yeah, that would be the winter. But it does, it says usually March 21st as the March equinox.
Okay.
So it gives 2 days, and this is why. It basically gives us a small date range, 19 to 21.
And in our biblical analysis, will we ever have March 19, March 20?
No, because if the first Passover was March 21st,
That's
and that,
that's the standard, not necessarily.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's how Mr. Camping took it, was that God's teaching us, anytime that was the first Passover. And if Passover is always to be observed when spring begins, then it wouldn't make sense to celebrate it before the first. That's where I'm not saying I fully understand this, but
Gotcha.
this
I
is
just
where,
wanted to poke holes in it as soon as I could.
yeah, but it's definitely something to look into more to
Right.
see if he was on the right track with that.
Yeah, let's keep looking into it. This is very, very good.
So far, he actually proved from the Bible that it fits with the Bible. So we know we went over this before, but I don't think we have time to go over it because we got to start. When do we have to start our next program?
5 minutes.
Okay.